I got a surprise for you.
That's a nice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's just the jacket.
Oh, those are nice pants, though. How are you feeling?
I'm well, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hi.
What's that?
Dean, the lights are on. We're live streaming.
Sure. So we go over it.
I mentioned I hate these chairs.
Pretty sure we'll end this tonight, huh?
I'll say, that's actually quite a relief. But we have plenty to talk about.
And next week's gonna be intense, because we have 2 local laws coming up.
Okay, sorry. I forgot she knows.
So is it time? Okay, I'll call the meeting of the Strategy, City Operations, and Governance Committee. I said that wrong again. And I see that the other member hasn't quite made it yet. He may just be held up at court. Go ahead.
Counselor Armstrong?
Here.
Counselor McFarland? Mayor Reed?
Present.
Counselor Kelly?
Here?
Counselor Ensel?
Here.
Counselor Moore?
Here.
Thank you.
And now's the time that anybody who wishes to address the council or the committee on any agenda items may come forward. And seeing none, we will move on.
I can try, you guys.
So, first, thank you for your report, Ms. Parrott. Do you want to add anything or alert us to anything? Any questions from the council on the clerk's office report? All right. And then I see that the director of the Community Development Office is here. Hello, thank you for coming. And what would you like to share with us?
This month I don't have a great deal. Obviously, we're still moving forward with the DRI, and we are in the process of drafting a development agreement with Prime, which we hope to have ready for council approval by the end of March. The streetscape and riverfront access projects, as part of the DRI, they are currently in a holding pattern due to the close proximity of their footprints to the Durkee Street site, and the fact that those projects will have a significant degree of interplay, so we don't want to commit limited funds elsewhere that we might need to make the perimeter of the Durkee project
Yeah.
work.
We're still working on questions as to whether the city would retain that property down by the riverbank or create an easement or something to that effect.
We are leaning heavily towards crafting an easement rather than a separate parcel, just to simplify the subdivision process and make sure that we are above the acreage requirement for a planned unit development on the site.
The acreage requirement, okay. All right.
Yeah. The downtown grant program. Downtown grant program, the different properties are at stages of work in the environmental and engineering phases. 2 of them appear to be almost ready to go out to bid and begin construction, hopefully in the spring and summer.
So I missed the first part of what you said.
Yeah, the downtown grant program, this is for
the loan
awards for
program.
individual grants or property owners. They are at various stages in the environmental testing and engineering phases, but at least 2 of them appear to be almost ready to go out to bid, and we should see some physical work this construction season.
Okay, if we could go back to the Durkee Street project, there was some discussion, I can't remember when and where, as to the need for soil sampling and boring that would need to be done.
At some point, when we get to due diligence, which would be pretty close after the signing of a development agreement, there would have to be subsurface studies done of the Durkee Street site to see what type of foundations will need to be put down there and any type of excavation that'll need to take place. So we would, of course, work with Prime and City Council to make sure that if small parts of the Durkee lot need to be closed on a very temporary basis, and right now I'm talking very small parts. We're
Right.
talking like test pits.
Right.
We make sure that the public's aware of it beforehand, and if the council would like to make any special accommodation during those times, that would certainly be
Okay.
up to you.
All right. Do you want to give a brief report, or shall we rely upon Counselor McFarland to talk about the last parking committee meeting?
Oh, I can talk about the meeting if you want.
Okay. You don't want to?
No, the parking committee meeting went well. There was an endorsement for the daily permit system that has been in place for a few weeks now. According to finance, we have sold 8 permits thus far.
That's all.
That's all.
Got 42 left.
Yep. So, we're still waiting, and again, it was a temporary program just to gauge a level of interest, so.
Okay.
There was a resolution to explore any and all options for replacing the current capacity on the Durkee Street site elsewhere downtown, and we are pursuing those options diligently. There is the hazmat survey of the Glens Falls building, which should take place, I believe it's scheduled for next Tuesday. Within a few weeks after that, we should have a final report, which we can incorporate into the bid specs for the demolition RFP.
Okay. That's
In the
moving along
expectation
then.
of that building being knocked down and the site cleared either in spring or early summer, with construction of the lot to follow after that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Regarding those parking permits, we've had a lot of inquiries about it.
Okay.
Not only have we just sold 8, but we've had a lot of inquiries, especially from people saying, I own a business and I'd like to provide parking for a month, what do I do? So we've had several inquiries like that, and we're getting lots of inquiries.
Okay.
Actually, Rich, when you get those inquiries, could you keep a record of who's asking for what, so we can roll that into any future discussions? Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. 8 was actually more than I was expecting personally.
One person who owns a business bought 8 for a specific reason.
Hmm.
I can't remember the details right now, because I just heard it quickly this morning in passing. Tori, for instance, was checking on it. But they signed one of the agreements instead of buying multiple permits for using it for multiple days.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I know one business owner said, well, what can I buy like a block of these every month? To provide parking for, what, 20 days a month or something like that. Yeah.
At least 42 of them now.
Well, you're not
At
buying
least 42
specific
ones.
spots,
We
though.
got
No. So I appreciate how swiftly, too, once I had trouble finding any connection to information about the parking permits. And Ethan, thank you for making sure that that was visible on the website. I appreciate that.
And we're still only selling them in the finance office, right?
Currently, yes.
But we've made them available to, for instance, the county, if they want to act as resellers, there's a provision to develop that policy. If the county wanted to buy a bunch in bulk and sell them to their jurors if they wished, that facility is open.
Yeah, or like you could see the community police, what do we call it, annex?
Police station, that's a good idea.
Okay.
But that isn't staffed throughout the day constantly during the week, I believe. Isn't that it's open at times? or
You mean
isn't
the
it-
one on Margaret Street?
The one on Margaret
substation?
Street, I don't think there's
It is the 9
a
to
steady,
5,
Right.
constant or continuity of hours that it's.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine if someone's gonna wanna buy a pass for the day, they're gonna go for the morning. So, I don't know.
Further discussion on the CD. Okay, well, thank you for those of you who were able to come to the presentation by OpenGov on Tuesday evening. And I just wanted to let you know that the mayor had a department meeting today, and we had an opportunity to listen to department heads kind of ask questions and raise concerns about what impact such a software would have. And I want to report, as Mike could probably verify, that we're getting a lot of solicitations from various other companies that we'll look into. And I just wondered if anybody had anything they wanted to bring up just as a follow-up tonight.
I was impressed.
Yeah, what impressed you?
A lot of things.
Yeah.
Actually, I was impressed with the presentation. I like the time card element potential.
The potential for that.
And the different, basically the work tickets and things. I think there's a lot of potential, and I think that it would. What excites me is the level of efficiency that it would provide.
There is that
which
promise. Yeah.
Means money.
From my point of view, though, now we're at a stage where we need to figure out the process for making a decision, and what if you have any lingering questions about this or any other kind of software that you may have come across your radar, I want to be able to figure out an organized way to accommodate everybody's needs so that we can, so there at least is the opportunity to take advantage of this kind of software before we start the budgeting season.
But
Does that make sense?
I think also, Rochelle, and as I mentioned on Tuesday night when we had the presentation, I think it's absolutely positively essential that if we do decide to go this route, that we as a council and as an administration need to be sure that the implementation and it is used. It's not
Right. Oh,
just
yeah.
cherry picked. Oh,
It's
yeah, I'll do
terrifying
this, I'll
to
do
think
that
it wouldn't be.
But, no, but I think, as I said, that it's on us to be sure
Absolutely.
that it's
And I
implemented
had
and followed.
I had some conversations with our IT guy here who has a little bit of experience, thinking about these kinds of matters and how such a plan might be implemented, and we're gathering some ideas about the logistics of how it would be rolled out and laid out, and we want to work with the mayor and anybody else who wants to chime in. Oh, and I must say, though, that the research will continue. OpenGov made a wonderful presentation, but there's a certain level of oversight that we need to commit to making sure this is absolutely the best deal for the city, that it'll be worth the money. And, Director Miller made a great suggestion today at the departmental meeting about, actually visiting some sites. If we, by process of elimination, still think that OpenGov is the company, that some site visitation might be a good way to really vet the system.
When you say sites, do you mean to places that have
Exactly.
are using OpenGov?
And who have a Munis system as well, so that they're, our counterparts.
That thought crossed my mind also.
Yeah.
That as part of our due diligence, we should visit some sites, or at least make phone calls, and we should ask the vendor to supply some names.
Oh, I have already done that.
All right.
But I also thought it might be a good thing to not just go to the people that were suggested to us, but also kind of just make some random phone calls as per Director Miller's suggestion. Yeah. Okay, anybody else? So I'll be sending out some emails to try to get organized about the decision-making process. We'll need further consideration about the kind of expenditure that this might be, and since it's an unbudgeted item, what that means as well. So we have to look at that financial picture very carefully. But anyway, I'll be in touch.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I know it was filmed, so I wasn't able to make the meeting, obviously.
Yes, I
but
know.
I'd look at it online. But I'm impressed that Peter's impressed. So
He's hard to please. Okay, so today I just also want to share with you some of what came up at the department meeting concerning the committees. Since this is part of may be seen as the purview of this committee. But there was a concern on the part of some of the department heads that there's not enough opportunity for the council to actually trade information with the departments. And that the feeling was that sometimes the attention to and discussion about the agenda items that need to be moved to the regular agenda kind of eclipse that opportunity. So, you know, and it occurred to me that we do have the opportunity to discuss these items during this meeting, but unless, in my mind, there's something really glaring that just can't wait until the actual, either the,
Work
what's
session?
that other one?
Work
Work
session?
session, or the actual meeting. We might be able to just move these items without much discussion to leave more time for that.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just want you to
actually,
consider that.
More discussion during the regular meeting.
Right.
And
as
during the work
opposed to-
session, which is what the work session was
Exactly.
intended
You're
for.
saying the committee
Exactly,
meetings
and
have
Jeff
become
even brought
too much
up
of
that
a-
sometimes he feels really badly that, you know, we all sit there mute during the regular meeting, and it's because we've had the discussion already, but people tuning in via live stream or the recorded version, they would probably like to hear our thoughts, you know, at that time.
Yeah, well, I've had people who were disappointed. They thought they were gonna hear the discussion at the regular meeting, and we had already discussed it. So it didn't get repeated, but I think people that do come to the meeting like to hear the discussion part.
Right.
So you're
May-
saying that these committee meetings should be more distinct for discussion with department heads instead of just a rehearsal of the actual.
Yeah, exactly,
upcoming-
that's what I'm thinking. That would be my
I-
preference.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
And to kind of make that work, we tried to model this around what the county does, where nothing actually gets on the main agenda unless it's gone through a committee. And each committee meets once a month, just as all our committees, we meet once a month. So if you have something, for instance, from CDO, you need to make sure it gets on that committee meeting, so you get on the agenda, usually in the same day.
Yeah.
So I pledge to make sure that we discipline and try to make sure that the things that are coming on the main agenda have gone through committee, planned ahead, so it's not last minute, oh, I gotta get on the agenda tomorrow, put it in the agenda, et cetera.
Right.
And then have it just kind of hanging there when we're really focusing on something else during the committee meetings. So I think requires a little bit longer term planning. Once in a while, some emergency happens, it does need to get on, but usually you should know at least a month in advance before a travel request is made and everything. And we really should have those discussions with the chairs, the department heads that are there that day, and with the relevant committee, and resolve those things. So we'll try a little bit harder to do that too.
Okay.
But I think as a solution to that too, what Rochelle was proposing is that we could still do this, but unless there's really some major objection or
Yeah.
discussion, but that can still be done in the work session
It
as well.
can.
That
But
it-
let's say,
it
for
becomes
example-
just basically a formality to move these forward
Right.
on the agenda and then have the discussion.
For example, you may decide that, oh my gosh, I don't really feel like we're ready to vote on this. I hope that we table it
Table it,
during the
right.
regular meeting, you know, something like that.
Right.
Okay.
Just, a lot of times our work sessions are taken up by executive sessions.
That's true.
So I think that same spirit of discussion probably needs to bleed over into the real
Mhm.
Yeah.
meeting also.
Yeah.
Another comment that was brought up too in that discussion is that sometimes an issue very important to the public is arising during our committee meeting, and it dominates through public comments much of our hour. So the department heads don't really have a chance to get up and explain to you the things that they're trying to work on with you.
Right.
So one recommendation was to not have public comment during the committee meetings. Reserve the public comment to just the main meetings, if that'd be all right with you.
Right.
That's, I mean,
That makes
if we had to
sense.
be honest too, been rare that we've had public comment
Yeah.
in a committee
Well,
meeting.
the one example that was brought up though was, there was vigorous discussion and outcry from the public, you know, within the last month or so.
Yeah, but
about fair
And
for the
probably
most
an
part.
hour
it's-
later too, at the main meeting as
Yes,
well. So
yes.
many people, so.
Okay. Well, thanks for that discussion.
So would you like to strike the public comment in the future from committee meetings, or do you want to retain that?
I don't see the need for it.
I mean, I don't know, we're in a committee meeting, do we all get to vote on this, or is this a committee action?
This is just something that Beth thought was a good idea, so it was never really passed that we'd have the public comments. I think it's just easy to remove them if you.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
We'll just have to let Elizabeth know next time.
Well, then let's entertain agenda items.
I do think it'd be a good idea to have public comment in an MLD meeting, but we can get rid of all the other meetings.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's slightly different because that is a constituted corporate meeting, so I think you're right that that one should still have a public comment period.
Good point, thank you. All right, ready to look at this big agenda? Okay. Number 1, request that the City of Plattsburgh's Plattsburgh Hunger Games event on the Oval Field to be held on Saturday, June 8th, 2019, instead of April 27th, 2019, previously approved on February 7th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Alcohol will be reserved, therefore New York State liquor documentation is required. 2, request, oh, sorry,
Wait, I
just
wanted to ask
interrupt me.
on that, is that the same thing as the field day that we were talking about before?
With the Zorbs,
I don't know what Zorbs are.
Yes.
okay, those are the big inflatable things you can run around in.
Oh, you're kidding me.
This is field day, I think we
Jousting
talked about
and-
sack races and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
that kind of thing, yeah, so that's what it was, and the reason it was bumped back a few months is given the transition period we are currently in the midst of for city events, we felt it prudent to allow us a few more months to get all preparation.
Probably one of the few people that have never seen the movie or read the book, The Hunger Games, so I got to admit.
Okay, it's
I'm
required
at a loss
reading.
here.
Before you can come, you gotta read it.
But this was supposed to take the place of the
Irish.
Irish Festival.
I burned it down, by the way.
Okay, and that's why it was like, because the Irish Festival was around St. Patrick's Day, right? And it was,
Usually,
let's
yeah.
push it back from, it was a little too cold to April, but now we're talking about moving into June.
Yeah, I mean, even in April, it can be pretty cold towards the end of the month, so.
That's fair. All right.
Okay. Number 2, request from Mountain Lake PBS to use the auditorium on April 10th, 2019 to host Broadway in the Berg performance. Excuse me, insurance proof is required and alcohol will be served, therefore New York State liquor documentation is required.
What time is
That's
that?
I could answer
Ruth,
any
do you
questions
know what
on that.
time it is, Beth?
I believe it's 6 o'clock, 6 to 8, I believe. It's either 5 to 7 or 6 to 8.
Event starts at 6 and ends at 9.
6 to 9.
I sent it to you on Tuesday.
All right.
Actually, oh, there's Beth now, who's it? The gentleman who is the general manager, executive of Mountain Lake PBS, and his wife are extremely talented and are professional singers, and they have a piano player that accompanies them. And the Mountain Lake PBS did a similar event last month, was it, Beth? Last month? Last November. Over in Lake Placid, Saranac Lake region, and it was a huge success, so we wanted to bring it to Plattsburgh as well.
Good. Number 3, request from the Plattsburgh Sustainability Committee to use the auditorium on April 22nd, that's Earth Day, by the way, 2019, to host an educational forum for the public and common council members about the need and benefit of signing the New York State Climate Smart Pledge and becoming a climate smart community. Insurance requirement is waived as this is a public information forum, and the City of Plattsburgh Common Council will be invited to attend. So put that on your calendars. This also, I wrote you an email today giving you some background, again, about the Climate Smart program and some links to the pledge that this committee will be asking the council to sign. And as well, Jamie Rogers, the representative from Adirondack North Country Association, who's the regional outreach coordinator, for this program is going to be addressing us about it on March 21st. So I just encourage you to take a look at all this information and see what you're going to eventually be asked to sign on to.
And Rochelle, what time is this gonna be?
Oh, 7 o'clock, right? That's what I had signed up to, because we have to do all this, you know, organizing. The buildings, we're gonna be there at 4.
7.
It's at 7, yeah. An hour. Hope you can come and hope you'll put it on your calendar. Okay. And I said that was Earth Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Earth Day. Director Miller knows all about that. If you have any questions about Earth Day, just ask him. Okay. All right. Any old business? Any new business? All right, I'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we
Second?
have a motion for the?
Oh, God, sorry, yeah. I'd like a motion to move these items to the regular agenda.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Second?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
Now,
I'll move to adjourn.
great idea, thank you. Second.
Mayor or you?
Yes?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
Good meeting, thank you.
We can begin our work session tonight for the Common Council. Would we like to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing a tax certiorari case at Plattsburgh Plaza versus the City of Plattsburgh?
Before we do that, I just know that Beth Davis is here from Mountain Lake PBS, so I know she's kind of on a very tight schedule a little bit, so I'm just wondering if, before we do go into executive session, if anybody does have any questions for her regarding the event, which would be, I believe it's 7B.
Beth, could you just tell us a little bit about what it's about?
Pretty much what Peter told you, it's a member event that we're inviting just our members to as a benefit. And we'll have hors d'oeuvres brought over by Irises, and they have all the paperwork that needs to be put in. And it's just as a thank you to the members that we have. And we'll have Bill, our executive director, singing with his wife and somebody on the piano. It's a really nice event. It's just like a thank you, and
When are they taking it on the road?
hopefully not soon. Because I'm hoping to use it again. It was really a success in Lake Placid.
Oh, great.
And it was the first time we had ever done anything like that up in Lake Placid, and everybody who went just really enjoyed themselves. It's just a nice evening.
So I'd encourage all of you to attend.
For members, right?
No, it'll also be, there will be some open invitations.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you very much, Beth.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you. Sounds exciting.
It will.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
You too.
Good night.
Beth.
So did we have a first by Councilor Wenzel, second by Councilor Armstrong? Any discussion? All in favor?
Bye.
Opposed? Passed.
You got the location ready for the swing, or?
That was a whole hydro last week. Yeah.
For that curve,
Yeah. He's not out of there.
It's only us. It's in the public.
So who named the Plattsburgh Hunger Games?
Hmm?
Who named the Plattsburgh Hunger Games?
I believe that was Tara.
Does she know it's a fight to the death?
Whoops.
Is this a city-sponsored fight to the death?
Yeah. It was tough getting insurance for it. Yeah, she should be good. The way she was describing it, like with the Zorbs and all the competition, just sounds like it'd just be a good time. So it'll be fun. Hopefully people show.
I saw that there's a liquor license.
Yes, I think she said there'll be like a separate part where people can.
Yeah, as a rolled-off
partake.
area.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Well, it depends, if you lost, it's not gonna be fun.
Yeah.
If you
But
wanna
then you
leave-
can drown your sorrow.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's true. I went to the place in North Carolina where they filmed a number of things, or some of the facades where they filmed it.
Yeah.
Did you go there because of the Hunger Games, or just it
Well,
happened?
my kids were, my son was, he would have been 15.
Oh, okay.
So my cousin's wife took us all there because the kids thought it was fun. We stood in front where,
Yeah.
like, where was the, I think, I never watched it, but it must have been where they, one of the places where they ate, like, it looked like they were, had to go in, they tried to go in and get food or something.
Mhm.
Those old shack looking.
Mm.
Yeah. I should have watched the movie because I did go there, but I didn't.
It's okay.
I'd be out of here at 5:45. I talk fast.
Talk fast.
They don't talk.
Just
Well,
make
my
a motion to
record-
waive all the readings for everything.
Well, my prior record with the prior administration was 6 minutes. We got out of here with 10 and 6.
6 minutes, what was only in there?
Not, there was one item, that was what it was, it was nothing, it was kind of like
It
one
was
of
just
these.
motion to adjourn, yes.
One of these small,
Yeah.
like an event, I mean, something
Ah, okay,
simple.
just something that was
There
already
wasn't
kind of,
any question or any,
well, it kind of feels like, yeah, go.
Is that 2016?
I think it was.
I feel like I was there.
Yeah.
I came here and I was like, why didn't I just watch the live stream?
Yeah.
Where do you live, Liz?
Just over the bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, Durand Street.
So you almost could watch it, and then if something exciting was happening, you could
Just
run
run
over.
over.
Looks like Mackenzie's not even coming today. Are you watching?
I don't know, she usually comes late though, doesn't she? Like towards the working session time?
Yeah.
I almost think it was a slow week.
Say something dramatic for that to catch.
We're in executive session, so that's why I'm waiting. I keep forgetting to put a sign over there, because we need to move the chamber sign over here.
Oh, yeah.
But they're afraid if they take, I think Mike were saying, I'm not sure if they take, you know, it's too delicate when they take it out. But I used to put a sign there so people would want to come over here.
Yeah, I walked in there.
Yeah. Were they all in there? Oops. They should have locked the door.
Yeah, I didn't even realize you could remove that. I thought that's where it says
I
common
think
council.
it's,
I thought it
yeah,
was-
it's got, it's probably been there since.
Just get a campaign. Draw
From the
those
north.
doors.
See?
I put an arrow.
Yeah. Just draw all the paint all the way around.
It's had to have been there since they made it the council chambers. How long ago was that? In the 40s, 30s? I don't, did it start with the council? I don't know. There's really history on this.
Yeah.
How long have they been having it in here?
Since June was 2013. Well, June was 13, 14, probably that next year, probably before 2014. When did you start coming?
16.
16, so it was, before it was Tia, she used to come.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think if she ever came in there, so it probably was 2014. she doesn't say on his sign, his plaque, when he donated it. Cause he had that made.
Whenever anything lines up in this place, let's invite in.
The orientation of the room used to be different too.
Yeah.
We were over
Those
there.
over here, and then we did tables over there.
Excuse me, miss, where could the live stream be found? I saw you live stream the.
If you go to the City of Plattsburgh website, it's on the homepage and you just look down on the left, there's some choices there and it says meeting videos, live stream or something. You just click on that and then you'll find, it'll have these meeting and our planning meeting, zoning meeting, any other public meetings.
It's all on there, okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And there's an agenda out there if you want, if you need one to follow along.
Okay, it's right
Yeah,
there.
it's just right on that table.
I'll go ahead and go.
And if you just type in like City of Plattsburgh on any YouTube, it
Yeah.
automatically.
Oh, it
just
does?
goes, yeah.
I didn't know that much you what you do.
Yeah, you just goes right there.
My grandkids, they don't watch YouTube videos all the time. They watch all these little things like, this little kid was just playing with they got like, the mom and the kid were playing with their kitchen set, and my little 3-year-old watched them. I'm like, Lucy, what is this? You're playing with the kitchen set, I love my kitchen set.
Watching people play.
The way that YouTube's advertising algorithm works is the advertisers get paid more depending on how much of a video a person watches after watching an ad. And the people with the best rates are always child advertisers because parents just turn on an iPad, sit in front of the kid watches it all the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, our kids will be like switching videos, they watch that for a little bit, and skip that. Did you just say that mobile, whatever face that they said is gonna be coming on the YouTube video? It was on Facebook, so as soon as my daughter, but then, I guess everybody's been talking about it, said that video was coming up when kids are watching, or anybody, I think, is watching YouTube videos, we come up and tell them to do evil things. But then I don't know if that's bogus, because then I saw another one say that turned out it was a hoax, or people were just sharing, you know, they share things.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sounds good when mom and dad would do something with my parents. I don't even, I don't know if that was true. I can't trust anybody.
Interesting.
See, when I see it, when we hear it, just have to wait, it's not real. It's like, I don't even know if I trust those, and you wait because,
Alex Trebek.
yeah, because you never know if it's just one of those four.
Yeah.
I think you're stage 4.
Yeah.
That's survival rate for any pancreas cancer is pretty low, because they can't detect it till it's.
When my aunt got diagnosed stage 4 pancreatic, she lived almost 3 years. And that was, she was an outlier.
Yeah.
It's usually 6 months or less.
Yeah, the testing, they can't, it's by the time anything shows up in the blood work, it's usually when there's already a tumor, and it's like pretty set. So, obviously there's outliers. So, it's weird stuff.
Yeah.
So. Definitely interesting.
It's depressing. Let's talk about food. Yeah. It's been nicer. Just
Talk
hear
about
it.
politics.
It might be spring, no.
I know, it's light out, yeah, that's what it's getting at.
Well, actually, that's what Bill was saying, don't forget your clocks. I forgot it
This
this
weekend?
weekend, yeah.
Flies.
Double checking. But I think I did see that on my calendar the other room.
So that means I'll forget to switch like the time on
So you're gonna be
my
late.
microwave.
Oh, yeah.
So like the phone's all that, like everything else will do it for me.
Yes, daylight
And I'll be like-
saving times ends on Sunday, so,
So it goes backwards.
yeah, spring ahead, fall back,
Or
so. No, so you
No,
don't lose
go
an
ahead.
hour.
So we lose it, okay, so it's gonna be, it would be
So-
6 o'clock right now.
Yeah.
Oof, that's.
I gotta start my
timing out.
coffee maker. I don't want it going off an hour later on my nap. There we go. There's some coffee.
We're almost out of the winter stage. It's gonna be in the 40s a couple times next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
It snowed like 3 times
have snow on Thursday before, it's just wrong.
Or people watching the YouTube stream right now.
Well, I'm one of them, because I have to make sure it's good.
So what's the chamber called, the meeting place called again?
Here?
Yeah, right here.
The council chambers.
Council chambers?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, you're coming, I opened the door.
Thank you. This is thoughtful.
excuse me, is the executive meeting, is that open to the public through live stream or it's?
Nope,
private?
it's closed.
Closed?
Yep, we're returning from executive session discussing the case of Plattsburgh Plaza versus City of Plattsburgh, a tax case. No decisions were made in the executive session. Is there any other items on the agenda you'd like to have some extended time to discuss?
Quite a hefty agenda.
Next week, I'm sure we'll more than make up for a couple of local laws for hearings for next week.
Can we just shoot the breeze? About anything?
Anything you wished we could all get together and discuss and just
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to do so for a while?
Right.
How much time do we have?
It's about 10
10
minutes. Can we
talk
talk
to us
about the
about-
laws that are coming up?
Sure you
Review?
can, and you could also talk more about the sustainability. I don't know if people
Sure.
are informed as you are
I
about it.
sent them an email with links to information, but I mean, I don't know if I have the energy. Did you all get my email?
I did, I haven't read it yet, though.
Yeah.
But
What's, just because you don't like emails?
I don't like emails from you.
Because we
Are they too wordy?
maybe it's because we're all inundated with them throughout the day.
I know. I'm beginning to think that email for the younger generation is just not the way things are done at all.
Right.
Is that your suspicion?
So passe emails, what my
Yeah.
daughter tells me.
And that there are just too many words in emails, right? What do you think?
Who would
Ethan?
ever think that us,
Yeah, I kind of like them, but I get like 100 of them a day. Like,
Yeah.
when my father's
I can tell you about the IT RFP.
Good. Our IT RFP.
Didn't you do that an hour ago? Yeah, 30 more.
I like emails because you can search them if you don't get a chance to use them.
Let's see, just an update on the RFP to graduate to the cloud. We had a meeting with Brian Brayton, who works for our IT service provider today, and also with Eva Schweber from the Community Development Office, and they gave us lots of good suggestions for things we need to consider if we make this transition to the cloud. So some of the things we should be doing, will be doing, is to determine if cloud printing is going to be an issue with our current printing fleet. We want to inventory software and hardware to determine any issues associated with those two aspects. We want to price Google licenses and Chromebooks. We want to see how easy it is to move the Outlook or Exchange email to Gmail. Let's see. We are going to ask our IT staff to provide us a list of directory accounts and email accounts to determine what we're paying for Microsoft licensing versus what we should be paying.
We went from Microsoft to everything Google, our school.
Mm-hmm.
It's cost effective. And we were Outlook, and we went to Gmail.
Mm-hmm.
And
pretty seamless.
well, everything's going to be different, right, depending on who's doing all the work. But I find that Gmail is just easier to deal with, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
I do too.
It really is very easy.
Yeah, I like it too.
Peter and I did that same transition at the university as well.
So Eva has actually worked in an environment before that made this migration, and she had a lot of good ideas. She said make sure you're on top of the security issues, things like access control lists and file permissions need to be monitored by someone, presumably our IT staff, just like it is in the Microsoft world. We need to have cloud policies for working at home, and let's see, we also wonder if Munis has a web-based product, and
Or
Mr. Marks
cloud-based.
is going to look into that for us at some point. It's not urgent, but soon. Licensing costs for G Suite, enterprise management fees, and all the Google apps we will use. How do we migrate the mail server to Gmail? And then a big question that came up with a lot of discussion is cloud archiving versus in-house archiving. We are required by law to keep email for 7 years. So we have a system of archiving that exists in-house now, but we'd like to explore ways to maybe move that service to the cloud also, if it's cost effective. And let's see. Eve expressed concerns about our website. Perhaps we should also look at transitioning from Civic Plus to some other platform. She strongly suggested that different departments need to post content and be comfortable in doing that. Right now, Community Development and Beth are the only ones using Civic Plus, but it's available to all of us, which made me think maybe we should have a council web page on the website.
Clerk's office does too. Clerk's office uses it a lot as well.
Say that?
Clerk's office, city clerk.
Oh, the clerk's office uses, okay, good. Oh, let me add that to.
Planning and zoning do theirs too. Building inspector does too.
Okay.
There is a council page on the website that gives a picture of probably like an outdated council, I imagine, because I've never taken a picture. But
Vicky Casper's.
Sure, we have
yeah,
to, I took that off, didn't
maybe. I don't know.
I? No, I thought I took the old picture off, you do have to give them a picture.
Yeah, and You know, it has our names, and numbers.
Yeah, it has your names.
Maybe it doesn't.
Why don't we just Photoshop and?
So we're going to have a meeting next week with SimQuest to nail down the printer issues and hopefully reduce our fleet of printers. We have about 70 of them, it appears, and we only have about 150 people using computers, so it's.
I know too, Mike, there was some discussion about doing an inventory of servers as well.
Yes, inventory of servers and all hardware. And then we feel like, you know, at some point in the very near future, we'll be able to sit down and talk with Dean about an RFP. So we have made some progress in that area. Just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One other thing that we're working on, we're all concerned about parking in Durkee Street, trying to identify different pockets of parking. I know the Community Development Office and Ethan's working really hard on it. One thing we're working hard on is seeing how much parking we can glean out of Court Street by redividing it, restriping it, potentially making it one way, as we've all discussed before. But Ethan had mentioned that we might consider doing a similar thing with Brinkerhoff Street as well. So just to open you up that there's other avenues to consider downtown and put diagonal parking along there as well and get a number.
Would that be Brinkerhoff east of Oak or?
Just the Strand section, yeah, east of Oak.
East of Oak? By the Strand to Margaret?
Would that have to become a one-way street also?
Yeah.
Did that,
I mean,
yeah.
it makes sense. It's one way,
It already
the
is
whole
one
way.
way.
Just like Court Street is, right?
Yeah.
So you've only got two-way for one block of both Court
Right.
and Brinkerhoff, so do the same thing with both of them in different directions.
Right.
But anyway, you add all these various alternatives up, including more parking down in the Durkee Street development itself and along Durkee Street, and
Bridge.
Court and perhaps Bridge and of course Margaret Street. Then it's summing up to, seems like well over 289, the magic number. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But we just want to be absolutely sure and have, when somebody says, where's the 289, we want to be able to say, yeah, it's here and here and here, and show it on a
Right.
map and be, so we're really working on a lot of due diligence right now to come up with those maps and everything.
Is there any way that a timeline could be developed to show how any of these plans might be rolled out in what sequence and whatever?
Yeah, Ethan and Matt are working on that too.
Okay.
Matt talked about timeline for Margaret Street, for instance, earlier today with his RFP and the demolition and all that kind of stuff.
Good.
Obviously, the entire timeline has to jig with whenever PrimeLink takes the 289 away, we need to have in place before then 289 somewhere else. So that's, they're very cognizant of that.
Yes. Good.
And this item,
No, don't say it aloud. Just needed to know if you had a chance to think about it.
yep, absolutely.
You think it's possible?
I think so.
Okay.
Dean was going to weigh in on that.
Jeff,
I wrote
are
up
you
a
aware
proposal.
of
I don't know, did I
anything coming
CC?
up before next week's
Oh.
infrastructure meeting?
When you send it?
No?
I sent
He
it
has no idea what's going on right
yesterday
now.
or the day before.
Email saying you're gonna send it.
Okay.
I
I'll
didn't know
find
if,
it and
um,
forward
just
it
want
to
to
you.
with the prime
if there was
sort of
anything in the
right now.
wings or,
No, not right now.
no?
They're completely busy with the potholes.
I can update you too, DPW's not here, but we've heard about different techniques for potholes from other communities. Turns out DPW does actually have that machine and they're experimenting more with different technologies this year as well. So they feel they have the tools they need, but nobody's perfected the pothole solution problem because you can see everywhere in the cold climates in the country we're all having the same problem right now. It's important for the public to understand this. It's just been, I think the DPW said this is the worst pothole winter they remember that we've been having this year.
At least since like 1997.
Yeah. Beekman and South Catherine Streets are really tough.
And the paving plan,
Cornelia.
as you may recall for this year, is to
Oh,
get
Upper
to,
Cornelia, yeah.
get to South Catherine this year, that part that didn't get done in the big job, and also get to Route 3, Cornelia Street,
Upper
from the
Cornelia.
city border to the,
Oh,
where
it's
Broad
crazy.
and Cornelia split
I've
off.
noticed it's been fixed a number of times. Though. It just
Yeah.
keeps
Those
getting
aren't
worse.
potholes, those are craters.
And our theory there is we're looking for roads, it's not just how bad a road is, but also a combination of how bad a road is and how many people travel it, because that's gonna be proportional how many people actually have their vehicles damaged. So we're really trying to take care of the worst of the worst, and they believe that the South Catherine and the Cornelia Street are really bad. They want to do some more work in a few other
Beekman
areas.
Street, part of Beekman that wasn't done a while ago is getting there also. There's one where it goes, there's a swell in it.
So it's probably about time to begin then. Let's begin our common council meeting for the City of Plattsburgh tonight with a pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed?
Present.
Counselor Armstrong?
Here.
Counselor Kelly?
Here.
Counselor Gibbs?
Here.
Counselor Ensel?
Here.
Counselor McFarland?
Present.
Counselor Moore?
Here.
Just a couple of brief comments. As you know, every first Thursday, the same day that we have the governance committee meeting, we also have our monthly department heads meeting. We had that today. A couple of the councilors joined us for that. Very good meeting. Very amusing at times. Mike Bissett was particularly humorous today. And we went over some of the budget numbers that I'm sure we'll spend more time on when finance, next week, I believe. Now you all know that since 2009, since the Falcon Seaboard pulled out, we've been really running a structural deficit every year of about $1.2 million. The good news is that in 2017, we reduced that structural deficit to about $300,000 deficit. This last year looks like it's coming in pretty close to even, maybe even about $300,000 surplus. So if you look at those 2 years on average, we're about balanced budget, and hopefully we're hoping we've turned that corner. And as you know, in the process, we took some really big hits. We stopped kicking some really significant cans down the road with the arbitration and the firefighters contract and that sort of thing too. So given those challenges, to get to the point where we're about a balanced budget is, you know, really a testament to the work of you all, but also a testament to the department heads that none of this would have been possible if they weren't willing to really scrutinize every expenditure, challenge every new appointment, often delay expenditures and appointments for more opportune times. So it looks like we're getting there. It hasn't been easy, but from Richard's analysis, it looks like we're starting to turn the corner. So I'm sure you'll hear more about that very soon. And I think, Richard, you send the council that data for them to look at as well. And you still not got to do a few final accounting things before we send it out to audit, so those numbers aren't absolutely final yet, but they're getting pretty close anyway.
Colin, when would that impact our bond rating?
You know, last year you came with us when we went to New
Right.
York in 2017, and that's when we had the improvement in outlook from negative to stable, but our bond rating actually went down. They then just did kind of like a desk audit from there. We didn't go down this time, and they just renewed their same ratings for us this last fall. They usually will want to come and meet with us in person before we go out for another bond issue. We probably won't do that for another few years, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see things turning around, that we could maybe go down this fall and kind of make our case if we got some evidence of turning that corner, because, you know, obviously they moved us from negative to stable based on our articulation that we actually have a plan to get back to balanced budget and even start building up a surplus. So if we've been able to verify we've done that, I think another visit would be in order, just to give them that reassurance.
Thank you.
Need that. Any other questions? Let's continue, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on February 28, 2019 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councilor Gibbs and second by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending March 6, 2019 in the amount of $95,321.44 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You have in your packets the regular reports of the city offices, and you heard the report from the city clerk's office earlier today. Are there any additional reports, beginning with governance strategy and city operations? Councilor Armstrong?
Well, we just had our meeting today, and we talked about, well, we got reports from the clerk's office and community development office. And we were updated on many of the ERI projects and ancillary projects. We had just a few budget items that we moved up to the regular agenda, and that's about it.
Thank you. City infrastructure, Councilor Moore?
I didn't have a report other than the continued battle of the potholes, but I did have a question on a purchase order we had for a window here in City Hall. Is that the prototype that they were trying to do the repair, or is that a modern replacement?
They're going to take one and rehabilitate it and try and get an estimate, a more careful estimate, to then go out with an RFP to get all or as many of the windows done as we have grant money for. You may recall Senator Little received $300,000 of funds to have us do as many windows as possible. And as energy efficiency measure, the MLD has also pledged to help us with some of the differences as well. The issue is whether we can get energy efficient windows as a replacement rather than just replacing windows that were designed in the day when we probably heated by coal and fireplaces in this building. So we're still having to work on that a little bit, and the engineering firm is helping us to do that.
We're still looking at keeping the historical integrity
Look
of
and
the
feel, that's right, yeah.
That's all I had.
And it was reassuring. We were told that we couldn't do modern materials for a historic building, but this Kent Delord House just down the street is also a historic registry place, and they were permitted by SHPO to do replica windows, look just like the era, but with more energy efficient materials. So we want to explore that.
Makes sense.
Especially if we're kind of talking about a Plattsburgh energy plan. I think we need to really put our money where our mouth is too. So.
And eventually, if we decide to participate in this Climate Smart program, there are grants available, through NYSERDA and the DEC that could assist.
Perfect. Thank you. So, city infrastructure, we have that finance and budget.
I just have a sort of a bright spot to share with the council. That is, I signed a bill tonight for $395,000 for the assessor's office. That is our shared services with the county, and that includes the years 2017 through 2020. And the good news there, if I read it correctly, is that the Financial Restructuring Board is going to reimburse us for that money because we've done some efficiencies in city government and shared services. So that was very encouraging to see that on my desk tonight. And am I right on that, Mayor?
Well,
not exactly.
Reimburse the county for our efforts.
The county, okay.
No, we don't actually get that Financial Restructuring Board money. It'll flow to the county.
Is that right? So even though we made the transition with them, we received no benefit from it.
Well, we're hoping that we will receive half of the cost savings in the first year of that transition, and maybe there'll be a check from the state for $25,000 or so sometime in the future, but
In addition to the overall apartment cost being cut approximately in half.
right. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
saving the ongoing money for that.
So it's still a bright spot in spite of the fact that we don't get 100% reimbursement.
It's just not a bright spot on us.
Yeah.
Well, it is
It's
a bright spot
for
in that
something.
we're paying about half as we were paying for assessment services. So
It's fantastic.
Public safety, Councilor Gibbs.
No, I have no updates.
Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Rensel.
No updates?
And MLD, Councilor McFarland.
No updates.
It's resolved, the reports as listed are hereby ordered to receive, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Rensel, second by Councilor Armstrong. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. No board recommendations or correspondence at this time. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills ordered by the Common Council for the week ending March 8, 2019, in the amount of $1,050,211.41 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Rensel, second by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. This is now an opportunity for any members of the public who have an agenda and would like to come and address the council on agenda items only. At this time, please come forward. It's another comment period at the end of the meeting for non-council, non-agenda items too. Seeing none, let's continue, please.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves the City of Plattsburgh's Plattsburgh Hunger Games event on the Oval Field to be held on Saturday, June 8, 2019, instead of April 27, 2019, previously approved on February 7, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Alcohol will be served, therefore New York State liquor documentation is required.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion? Roll call?
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Rensel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves Mountain Lake PBS to use the auditorium on April 10th, 2019 to host Broadway in the Berg performance. Insurance proof is required and alcohol will be served, therefore New York State liquor documentation is required.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion? Roll call?
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Rensel?
Abstain?
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves the Plattsburgh Sustainable Committee to use the auditorium on April 22nd, 2019 to host an educational forum for the public and Common Council members about the need, benefit of signing the New York State Climate Smart Pledge and becoming a climate smart community. Insurance requirement is waived as this is a public information forum, and City of Plattsburgh Common Council will be invited to attend.
Moved by Councilor Ansel, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion? Roll call?
Councilor Armstrong?
Abstain.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Rensel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
No travel requests at this time. Are there any resolutions for initial consideration? Any new business or councilor reports? Councilor McFarland, did you have that?
No, I did not.
Anybody else? At this point, we ask if any members of the public to please come address the council on any issues of mutual concern. If there are none, we may end up having the first adjournment for a council meeting when it's still light outside. It seems like an awful long time.
Move to abstain? Or move to? Abstain.
Moved by
Move to
Councilor
adjourn.
Ansel, seconded by Councilor Moore. Roll call?
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Rensel?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Thank you, folks. Go and enjoy that nice spring day out there.
Jeff. Jeff.
Wow, thanks.
Are you gonna show this?
I know. Yeah. So, did you
do you want people back here?
Of course, I'd love to, thanks.
Oh.